For reminding me.
No worries.
I remembered to think about the recording. Okay, so it says setting up your custom streaming service.
We're good. It's done.
Is that it?
It says stream started.
Okay, so there's nothing for me to do logging in.
We're good. We're on YouTube and Facebook.
Okay, great. All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Kim Hermance. I am the president of Project Civica. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a couple things on the agenda tonight, one of which is a sneak peek at our research report that will be out next week. We are just finishing up the last little bit of editing, so we're going to give you a sneak peek at the basically the whole thing, but we'll go through the executive summary and some of the charts and stuff in there. As we were editing it, it keeps on getting longer and longer, so hopefully I can cut it down a little bit too. It's about 75 pages right now, so from cover page to the last page. It is a compilation of the research that Project Civica and the Project Civica Voter Roll research team has done basically in the last year and a half till we totally got rolling. So before I get into that, I just also want to tell you about some upcoming events. We have a volunteer who is a like a dancer side Zumba type instructor, and she and a friend had an idea for a Freedom in Motion event, which will be January 31st, and it kind of fits perfect with January, right? New Year's resolutions, everybody's trying to get healthy, maybe ate too many cookies over the holiday. And so it's a 2-hour event. Will be a fundraiser for us and the warehouse down in Long Island as well. And we are really trying to get people from all over the country involved. It's not political, other than it will be, uplifting, hopefully some freedom type music in there, celebratory music. I'm not the aerobics instructor for it, so I'm not 100% sure what music they picked, but it should be a good event for people to jump in on and join. We are using it as a kickoff for the 250 years from America's birth, and we have an educational series that we'll be doing all year long. And so this is a good kickoff for us as well. We're hoping to stick some snippets in there in between songs of information. So I'm not sure it's on our main page of our website yet. If I get a chance here, I'll try to put the link in the chat so you can sign up. But the link was in the email that you got for this meeting, and I will put it in the main forum chat that we have on Signal as well, and you'll see it. We'll get it out in emails and stuff like that again. So it's virtual by Zoom, so you can watch it in your own house. No one will, if you're a good dancer, no one, that's great. But if you can do it in your living room and no one will see you if you're not. But we thought it was a good idea and kind of a fun way to do a fundraiser. And we're really hoping that we get people from all 50 states. That would be pretty cool. So we're going to get it out on social media and advertise it around. So that's Saturday, January 31st from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. So that's one event. The other thing that's coming up is February 4th. We have Lobby Day in Albany. So right now I've got 2 quotes from a hotel, and we will be, I got to pick which one, but basically if you want to come up the night before, stay overnight so we can get an early start. Dave DiPietro has offered his office as a place to hang out. If we get more people, then we may have to look for another room. But right now, he's kind of hosting us up on the Capitol, which is great. He always supports all of our efforts. And so if you are able to attend, we would love to have you attend. We will give you some training. We'll help, give you some basically we'll have position papers that you can hand out, which with some of the bills that are in the legislature right now that we can already support. Believe it or not, there are some up in the legislature for hand-marked paper ballots that we can support that are the Democrats have brought forth, and also there's some bills the Republicans have already dropped this week for of voter ID, for the save system up there. There's a bunch of them. So we will have that paperwork and give training so you understand what those bills are and what it involves. So look for that sign up as well. We'd love to have all of you join us, whether it's for the day or to come in the night before and stay overnight. This meeting upcoming next week, we're going to do Freedom of Information Law training. And so that is next week on Thursday night at 7:30. Anne Marie Reed will be our guest. And she is, of course, as many people know, an expert in this. And she has put what used to be in two separate nights into one presentation. And I think, I don't know if I know she was planning on it. I don't know if that's what'll end up happening, but I think she was going to use the case that Roy Reynolds did in Monroe County, where he kind of did a Freedom of Information Law request and had to follow it all the way through to Article 78, and he won that. So that is coming up. People are, let's see, popping in, joining. So that's good. We're still getting some people. What else is coming up? So she's next week. Then the week after that, we have Dave DiPietro joining us. As I said, he's an assemblyman up from Erie County area, but he's going to talk about two subjects. One is how a bill becomes a law in the legislature, how it's supposed to work. And then the second subject is how it actually works. So up in Albany right now. So it's a very dysfunctional in Albany. And there's one party that has the supermajority. And so how it's supposed to work isn't actually how it's working right now. So to some extent. Anyways, he's going to talk about that. So we're glad to have him on there. And then that would be 1, 2, 3 weeks from now, we will have the people from the Election Integrity Network. Project Civica, as many of you know, we are a state coalition. So we're part of the Election Integrity Network. They're doing great work policy-wise, and they're going to come on and talk about their efforts nationwide and just so you can meet them, and they have meetings that anybody is able to go to, educational working groups that you can learn about everything from voter rolls to technology to policy. And so they're going to come and talk. So that's kind of the next 3 weeks in a nutshell. Patrick, do you want to briefly mention that you are in the process, I think, of organizing a kickoff of precinct strategy? I don't know if you have it yet. That's why.
No, we're getting there. We have
Okay.
February 9th is the date. It's still a little tentative, but that'll probably be it.
Okay.
And what that is basically we're trying to get a basic understanding of how to become a committeeman, which is pretty simple. There's a few different routes you can take, and how important that is to politics, your representation as far as choosing who represents you at a local level, a town, county, state, and even the federal level. Committeemen are often the ones that are supposed to decide who gets on the ballot and who is a designated candidate, and then other candidates are free to petition voters as well. So it's just a basic understanding of how to become involved in politics right outside your front door. Not everybody likes politics, but the fact of the matter is, being a sovereign or a citizen in a republic requires your participation, and it should be a bit more than voting. And that's what committeemen do. They represent the smallest group of voters, to the party um, in their communities. So that's what it is, and we're going to be doing that as an annual thing and starting to get people involved statewide in their local communities and in their counties.
Great, thank you. So hopefully that will pan out, but right now the tentative date is February 9th. That's a Monday night. We would Zoom that. Last year there was an in-person portion, again at the warehouse. What's the official name of the warehouse? America's Warehouse, right? America
The
First
the
Warehouse?
the America First Warehouse.
Okay, there you go. And they host a lot of events, and they are a great partner with us in that they really try to help us out, and they can, really help us stream these things out. So that'll be great. And we're hoping to get Steve Stern on again, Dan Schultz, who's the author of the book about precinct strategy, and we'll see what other guests we can get on. So basically an educational tool to teach people about it. And it's about 2 weeks before upstate New York will be carrying petitions, getting signatures for candidates and also for committee people. And so it's a perfect timing to do that as well. Thank you. All right, so I have up on the screen the report. So this was something we worked on most of the fall, and there was a group that we're part of, which is several states, Arizona, California, Illinois is in it, Pennsylvania, a bunch of states gathered together, and we sent a group or several representatives to meet with several congressmen, and we had to put together a report for it. And so that's what this was. And then subsequently, we kind of worked on editing it and filling in some pieces that we felt needed to, needed to be added to make it a little bit more complete. So the report, as part of several other, like I said, several other states, pretty much every swing state and like I said, California, Illinois, and New York was included because we are while we aren't a swing state, we have a number of swing congressional districts that help impact the House of Representatives. And most of those tend to be downstate, Long Island, Hudson Valley, but it makes New York extremely important, not to mention the Electoral College votes that we have. And so that contributes to the importance of New York. So they asked us to put together a report that could be delivered to folks in Congress who were interested in voter integrity. And then also the report was delivered to the DOJ, and it's also been delivered to the White House as well. So we kind of worked on it a little further, and we're about ready to put it out. Hopefully, we were hoping to do it last week, but the holidays kind of got in the way. It took too long to kind of work on the editing. And so the press release and the report will be made public next week. So this is the report. Basically, we're calling it nothing real original here, New York Voter Roll Integrity and Compliance Report. If anybody thinks of a real catchy name, let me know. That doesn't happen to be one of my superpowers, is coming up with really catchy names. But if somebody thinks of one, let me know. And basically, it's structural failures, cross-state conflicts, and legal compliance. So one of the things we did, because we were dealing with Congress and we were dealing with congressional races, that was kind of the initial goal of the report. We related a lot of what we saw in the New York State voter rolls to the National Voter Registration Act, otherwise known as NVRA or Motor Voter, and the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA. They have two different kind of components. The National Voter Registration Act is involved with registration of voters and the process to remove them, where HAVA has to do with state voter roll, computerized voter roll. It has to do with auditability of the rolls and things like that. So they kind of worked hand in hand. And so I'm going to go through some of our findings and show you some of it. If you have questions or have any comments, feel free to raise your hand, and I will stop and try to answer it as best I can. All right. So we did keep the when we sent it up to Congress, and we had a confidentiality notice on it and disclaimer. We're going to take those off when we make it public, but I got it in there still because I haven't gotten around to taking it off. So basically, let's go through the executive summary. So basically, what I would say is Project Civica's review of New York statewide voter registration data indicates systemic vulnerabilities in the administration, reliability, and auditability of voter list maintenance. Based on publicly available monthly New York State voter extracts from 2023 and 2025. And what we do is we gather the New York State voter roll every month. John, who is on this call, he does a Freedom of Information law for the voter rolls every month. And we upload the voter rolls into a platform that we share with New Jersey and New Jersey Election Integrity Group. And we get because it's what would you call it, a platform, and there's a dashboard to it. Basically, we've got some queries that are done, and the system creates a whole bunch of data for us automatically. So it's pretty cool, and there's more there than we have been able to do anything with. So if voter roll research is your thing, please join us, because we can definitely show you the platform, and maybe there's something there that you want to jump in and help us research. So getting back to the report, we did cross-jurisdictional comparisons and targeted case studies. The observable characteristics of New York's voter roll raise serious concerns about whether core federal and state list maintenance obligations are being executed consistently, continuously, and in a manner that can be independently verified. So as I was indicating earlier, the National Voter Registration Act requires states to conduct a general program of voter list maintenance, and these are key words, that are uniform, non-discriminatory, and conducted on a regular basis, while the Help America Vote Act requires a single, centralized, official, and auditable statewide voter database. Capable of accurate updates and verifiable corrections. Yet, what we found was volatility, internal contradictions, inconsistent public maintenance fields within New York's voter data, which did not provide a stable or auditable record demonstrating compliance with these, did not provide a stable, auditable record demonstrating compliance with these requirements. So our analysis showed that the voter registration records frequently change in ways that cannot be reconciled through publicly available indicators alone. We found widespread placeholder or irregular data entries, prolonged retention of registrants who appear to have moved out of state or died, clustered removal activity following federal elections, instances where voting activity appeared after a voter was recorded as purged, and voter history anomalies in which a voter activity or voting activity was modified, removed, or inconsistent with recorded status changes. And these patterns underpin confidence that New York's voter roll can be relied upon as accurate, independently verifiable record of eligibility determinations and list maintenance actions. So I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but that's basically the conclusion. And let's get into some of the things we looked at. So basically, one of the things we're able to, that the platform does is it analyzes where registrations come from in New York State voter roll. And for those people that maybe are newer to research, um, New York State has a state voter roll that is called Nice Voter. And it also has the counties, and the counties are responsible for doing the changes, updates, purges, additions, all the kind of maintenance work are the county responsibility, where the state gets all the information. It's supposed to be synchronized almost immediately up into the state voter roll database, which is called Nice Voter. And so that's how it's supposed to work. And if unfortunately what we are seeing is that synchronization doesn't appear to be happening, and that's some other research that we're currently involved in, is looking at the differences between the state voter rolls and the county rolls and some of the problems. But what we can do is we can take a look at where the registrations in the voter roll come from. And so if some of you guys may know some of these sources, right? So there's, in New York State, we have no excuse mail-ins. We have absentee ballots, and they're kind of similar. No excuse mail-ins means you just say, I want a mail-in ballot sent to me. Absentee ballots is when you're going to be out of town, or maybe you've got a disability, and you want that ballot mailed to you. Um, so so sorry, I'm getting something confused there. That would be ballots. I'm talking registrations here. For registrations, you can register when you go to the you can register either via mail-in, right? So you can mail in your registration. You can do it online, right? So you can go to the State Board of Elections and you can register to vote online. And you can also drop off your registration at the Board of Elections. You can also go to pretty much any government entity and put your registration form in or fill it in. And then the other means is through the Motor Vehicle Department and several other agencies. So most of the registrations to vote come from what we would call low verification sources. And so what that means is when you sign up to register to vote and you fill out the form, there isn't any verification of citizenship. There isn't any verification of identity, because you're not showing voter ID. You are supposed to provide the last 4 digits of your Social Security number or your driver's license number, but on that registration form, if you don't have those things, they accept other things. So in terms of verification sources, 93% come from low verification sources like mail-in submissions, agency, local board of elections, and other decentralized intake method where eligibility and citizenship are primarily established through self-attestation rather than documentary confirmation. Now, this is consistent with the National Voter Registration Act. But the interesting thing here is, and we tend in the election integrity field to kind of think, okay, anybody who interacts with the motor vehicle department, they automatically then can get access and get registered to vote. But if you think about how your interactions with the motor vehicle department are, think about all the documentation you need to provide when you're making any kind of change to your license or to get a new license. So in actuality, the motor vehicle department is one of the only places where where you're providing a lot of documentation to prove who you are. And so that actually is one of the sources where there is documentation of identification of who you are, like voter ID. And so, but only 5% of Nice Voter gets the registrations, people registering to vote from that means. So the rest of it is 93% of the registrations originate from those other low verification sources. So I want to scroll down, and unfortunately, there wasn't a way for me to have two copies of this. I want to show you the graph with this one. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here's New York voter registrations by source. All right, and so you can see how it gets divided up in Nice Voter. So when people register to vote, here's the percentages. Here's where it comes from. 36.9%, and this is as of October. We get the voters every month, and I couldn't update everything every time we get them. So we kind of cut it off in October because that was right before an election, and that's what this report is based on. So mail-ins come, 36.9% are from mail-in registrations. People dropping it off at the County Board of Elections is 33.8%. Local registrar is other agencies. It's like government offices, things like that, where you can drop them off. And there's your DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle, only 5.4%. Agency and school registrations. And that's what it shows in Nice Voter. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Any thoughts or comments while I kind of move back?
I was thinking, when you look at the DMV, 1.2 million um, voters registered there, and I know not everybody votes, but it's interesting how in like the 2020 election, Donald Trump lost by 1.4 million supposedly. Um, it seems like, okay, that's a small percentage of registered voters, but you know, we definitely have people on the voter rolls that aren't even citizens, right? We know that. And there's some other anomalies where people aren't even alive that are on the voter rolls. They have State Board of Election ID numbers. But it seems like a small percentage of registered voters. But the fact of the matter is, even that small percentage of 1.2 million, let's say, I don't know, you have half of those people vote, or let's say 500,000, that could swing an election easily.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so.
So that's Anne Marie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I have just a few things. Wait, stop right there. So on this graph here, I cannot read, and maybe it's because it's on Zoom, the mail-ins. I don't like the yellow. Maybe have it black with yellow lettering, like yellow outside. You know how like you have the DMV
It
and
is.
agency, but it's
It
very
actually
hard
is.
to see that.
Well, I mean, there's no way for me because it's in a Google Doc for me to pop that out, but the DMV that's black and yellow, the yellow is on the outside of it. So you
Right,
can see. And right
right.
before it is the actual numbers and percentages in another registration source. So we actually are showing it two different ways. We
Well,
show the actual table with the numbers and the percentages, and then we show it as a what do they call these? Donut graphs, I think.
yeah, something like, or their circle graphs or something, yes.
No,
No,
it's not a,
I would just want to point that out, but can you go back to where you talk about predominant low verification?
that's up higher, yeah. Yeah, I got confused in the beginning, started talking about ballots because I was talking with somebody right before the phone being on here about mail-in
Right
ballots,
there.
but it wasn't mail-in ballots.
Yes,
This has to do with yes.
one down, one page down. Okay, so this page, it's just, paragraph after paragraph. Is there, I don't want to add more and make it even longer than it is, but when just because I've done project reports before that were put out publicly, we tried not to have paragraph after paragraph because they stop reading. And what we do is we break it up with a little small bullet pointed list like you could do in the second paragraph under predominant low verification, where you talk about it increases upstream vulnerability to, I would assume that's due to clerical errors, incomplete data, identity ambiguity, and weak.
Yeah, we can put it in a bullet point. It went,
It would break
it went,
up the constant paragraph of reading, reading, and reading.
yeah, okay, that's a good point.
And then
I
at the
mean, you
bottom
will
of
see
that,
that we did do that in other places, so I appreciate that.
and
Um,
do you mean at the at the is it at the bottom here? Yeah, it's at the last paragraph, second line from the bottom. As a result, registration source becomes, is it registration source or sources?
source. Well,
Okay.
it could be, depends on the
I
part in
didn't
the
know. I'm
line.
just asking. I'm trying to quick read while you're talking so I can ask, say something. So that's
But
okay.
we're not gonna have the ability to go through 75 pages of report. But I do appreciate what you're saying about the bullet points. And actually it did go to Congress and to the White House and the DOJ as a bullet point. So
Okay.
yeah, and we maybe we should put it back. So
Um,
anyways, okay.
can I say one more thing?
Sure.
When we did project when in my former group, when we did project reports and we got press coverage, and mind you, we got a lot of press coverage. One of the things one of the reporters had told us was he likes the graphs. And the reason being, or something spectacular graphic wise in the report, because newspaper reporters, if they want to say give you the front page, they don't want it to be a title. They want it to be a picture. If it's a graph, even better. And, if it's well explained, great. And that's a lot of reason why we got a lot of front page news, other than, it was on local government and so forth. But they liked the fact that they could take and actually we would provide them not only the report, but we would provide them JPEGs of all the graphs when we sent out the report to the press so that they could take one of our pictures and put it on the front page. So we could hopefully get front page coverage and not be the last page of the newspaper. So
Okay.
just a suggestion, and the JPEGs really helped. I mean, every single reporter really appreciated having JPEGs of all our graphs.
Okay. That's an interesting thought. So
Okay,
um,
that's it.
so we do have all the, so one of the things when you're delivering something to, we were told anyways, Congress or the White House, they actually don't want what you just said, Danielle, or Anne-Marie. We were told not to do that, to actually have the front page be very neutral and for Congress, interestingly. So I don't know. That's what we were told. But press would be different, right, than delivering it that way. So I also want to get to part two of this, which is voter registration by source and party, which is probably easier shown by a graph. The colors here are the colors that you would assume, right? Blue is Democrat, red is Republican, yellow is no party or blanks or no party affiliation, right? And then you've got your other smaller parties. So this shows you the relates registration source to party. The first column is mail-in, right? So, and the second one is County Board of Elections. And then after that, you've got local registrar. Like I said, that's like different county offices and things like that. But it's very interesting. Look at the number of Democrat mail-ins versus Republicans. It's much more 50-50 for delivered to the County Board of Elections. But sending in registrations by mail is predominantly a Democrat activity, if you will, or the way the Democrats seem to get registered. We could probably extrapolate on that further, but that's what the data is showing. Whereas some of the other sources are definitely more split. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Patrick?
Yeah, like the local registrar and the school. School, does that include colleges? Is that just like high
Well,
school?
it's high school,
Okay,
not school,
and
not
then
college. Yeah.
okay, so then the local registrar would include the
Because
college
because
registration, you think?
people remember on the voter rolls, they can we can see kids that are under the age of 18 who have
Right,
registered through school.
right.
Um, and so that yeah, a lot of them get registered through the DMV. But that's why it's such a small percentage is because they're talking, I don't know
I
how
s-
many people there would be that are 17,
Yeah,
16,
right,
17. There's not that many. Yeah. And most of them get registered probably through the DMV, at least more recently.
right.
And remember the voter roll, this does not include a purge, by the way. This is just active
Active
and
voters.
inactive, right? Maybe not. I got to remember what the number is up here. Maybe it's everything. Yeah, no, sorry, it's everything.
Okay.
Includes purged. I was wrong. 23 million records, so that includes purged. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it look back historically, and that may skew some of it to some extent too, as well, right? If we get more time down the road, it'd be interesting to look at active and see where the voter registration sources are coming from more recently. But
Yeah.
interesting, right? Okay, I think I'm just going to scroll here rather than scrolling back and forth and talk to the graphs.
Do you, in your report, do you inform as far as how many eligible voters there are versus registered?
It may be in there. I'm not sure, 100% sure. I'd have to go find
Okay.
it.
I know it's 75 pages. You don't have to look now.
You really want to want me to add more too? All right, so
I'm just asking.
I know, yeah, yeah, no, because remember the report is entirely based on as much as we could. We tried to base it on the extracts from New York State, as opposed to trying to have to footnote a ton of other sources. We tried to keep it focused on what we got every month. So this is an interesting one. So this is January 2023 through October 2025. This is purge activity. So
Wow.
yeah, take a look at that. So we, unfortunately, the way it's a little bit mushed into a square instead of a nice long. So when I originally saw it, it's much longer and rectangular, and we had to kind of compress it a little bit. But I still think you can see the issue here. So this giant spike here that you see is February of 2025. Okay.
Why? Why did everyone die in that month? Or did they wait to that month to purge?
So,
It
by
seems
the
extreme.
way, that is over 400,000 purges done in one month. Okay.
Wow.
And if you add in December, January, and February, it's just very close to well, I think it's over 750,000. And then if you look at the other kind of large spike right here, that happens to be February of 2023. Can anybody tell me why that might be important? We'll make this interactive rather than listening to me. Why would that be important? February 2023 and February 2025. No one?
Someone
Well,
put
isn't
petitioning in here.
Nope.
n-
But that's a good thought
voting?
because February is petitioning month.
I
Who
wa-
was
I was th I was thinking it's after people get elected to office and
you're close, you're getting there, you're getting there.
and so
Why
they
couldn't
want
it
to
be?
clean up the rolls. I don't know.
For
Why could
the roles are inflamed prior to an election, so they can have extra people to vote when they see that the wrong guy is winning, and now
no,
they have to kind of do a cleanup.
you could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but this is very definitely tied into and I'll give you a hint, National Voter Registration Act. What happens? Does anybody know what the National Voter Registration Act
Mm-mm.
says? When can you do cleaning? I'm giving people hints. When can't
No.
you clean? Okay. So, according to the National Voter Registration Act, motor voter, you there are limited periods of time when you can do any kind of voter maintenance. And basically, let me just go through the process of it. So somebody hasn't been voting for a long, long, long time, right? And so what they can do is they can move them to inactive status, and then they mail out a postcard to them. Is this sounding familiar to people? It's a snail mail postcard. If the snail mail postcard doesn't come back, saying, you know, whatever, then you get these people sit for 2 federal election cycles, right? And then after 2 federal election cycles, then they're allowed to purge them, right? Right. So the interesting thing to me is February 2025 is right after a presidential election, and they removed a ton of people who had been sitting on the rolls for probably at least like 2 federal cycles would be 4 years, probably longer than that. So that is very much tied into the National Voter Registration Act. And that's the same with February 2023 as well, because that was right after a federal election. So you can see here that they're doing their maintenance. This is across 62 counties. They're doing their maintenance right after a federal election cycle. Okay. But the National Voter Registration Act allows you to do, it tells you you have to do continual maintenance. But they're not really, are they? They're not doing any other maintenance except, you know, minor amounts, right? But they're basically doing all of their maintenance in New York State right after a federal election.
Is there a reason why you're covering just 23 to 25, or is that how long you've been
That's how
pulling
long we've
data?
been collecting data.
Okay, that's what I thought. I wasn't sure, but I wanted to ask.
That's as long as we've been collecting data. Yep. So that's what we've got. Okay. So kind of interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
Okay. So one of the things we do is we collect data every month, and we actually publish this out in usually a Substack. We stick it in a Substack. We get it out on social media. The platform we use gives us a ton of information, and we try to put the numbers out every month. And so this was the data we used for this report. Excuse me, at that time, October 2025, there were 12,617,
12 million?
12 million, sorry, 12,617,945 active voters, 746,283 inactive voters, and we had 9.8 million purged voters. They added in October 95,000. They removed only 2,000. Now, one of the things about the National Voter Registration Act is there's a section in there that's a 90-day quiet period where you're not supposed to do any systematic or systemic maintenance. So you can't do like a major cleanup, right? 90 days before actually any election, includes primaries as well. But they are still allowed to take people off who died. If they get notification that somebody moved out of state, they're still allowed to do that. So one of the things this kind of shows is that in New York State, that 90-day period, they're viewing it as we can't do anything. Like we literally are not doing any maintenance at all during the 90 days prior to an election. Because remember that 2,000 number is across 62 counties. So, you know, they're not following the letter of the law there at all. We also keep track of the number of Democrats, the number of people who are blanks or no party affiliated, the Republican count. And one of the interesting trends in New York State is the fact that people are leaving both the Republican and the Democrat Party, and the second largest voting bloc in in New York right now is people who are not affiliated with any party at all. So that it's an interesting anomaly that's happening. We found at that point in time, New York duplicate voters, 125,000. Okay, and in this report, duplicate just means people across the county. So it's, somebody registered in Erie County, and it appears, because you have to investigate all of these, that the same person is also registered in, say, Westchester County. Typically they're closer, it's Niagara and Erie, but it could be across. So that's what those duplicates mean. But because we share a platform with New Jersey, we're able to see their voter rolls, and we are able to track monthly how many people are both registered both on in New York and in New Jersey, and registered on both. And this number has been going up. It's in October, it was 86,000. So we have 86,000 people who are registered in New York and registered in New Jersey on both sets of voter rolls. The other interesting thing is this number, there were 72,000 voters who voted after a purge date. So if you are purged from the rolls, that means you've either moved out of state, died, you might be incarcerated, but you are probably not going to, you shouldn't be able to vote, right? So 72,000 is quite a large number for a category where people are, they hopefully had documentation as to why they were purged. Like I said, they moved out of state, they died, they're incarcerated. So this number is rather high, and it, you can't see it here, but it's, there's several counties, especially Nassau County. Nassau County is #1 on the list where this is happening. So we are in the process of investigating this and finding out what's going on. But the number is rather high. At least at this point in time, it looks like to us that New York State has managed to avoid the duplicate SBOE ID numbers. Some people may remember a couple of years ago in 2020, that was a big problem. There were tons of people, and it does appear that New York State is trying to do a little better with that one anyways. Wasn't any registrants under the age of 16, at least in October, at least according to date of birth. Registered voters with no address. This actually doesn't mean that they don't have any address. It just means that they don't have like a legitimate address. They're registered to like a blank lot or a PO box or something like that. And again, this would require some investigation, but there's something in terms of the validity of the address that would need to be investigated. But I want you to take a look at some of these other categories here. Inactive, active voters who have not voted in the last 2 federal elections, okay? And then the number of people who have never voted. They registered and never voted. So we have 1.8 million people who have not voted in the last 2 federal elections, and we have 1.1 million people who have never, ever, ever voted. And I'm going to go to that chart because I want to talk about that. And we could go on and on with this, and we may have to do a second session where we go into this report, but I want to talk about that. Let me find it. Okay, here's the chart. Okay, so the National Voter Registration Act, we kind of briefly talked about the process there. So if you've got somebody who isn't, hasn't voted, and you're noticing there's no vote, the process basically is you move them to inactive, you send a postcard out, and you see what happens. And if you don't get a postcard back, you've got to wait 2 federal cycles, that's 4 years, to remove them. If you do get a postcard back, you can move them to purge right away. So if you know that, the postcard comes back and says, hey, we don't live here anymore, then you're supposed to be able to move them off to purge. But take a look at, we use 6 years because that's 3 federal cycles, right? So after 3 federal cycles, these people should be moved off the voter rolls. But there are almost 700,000 who've been sitting on the voter rolls for 10 plus years. So there's a lot of dead wood, that's people who probably have died, who have moved out of state, and they're sitting on the rolls, and for whatever reason, they're not being removed and turned into that purge category. I think there's another chart here. Yeah, so we track these numbers month to month. And so you can see if, in other words, we could see if they are doing any kind of maintenance on these people at all. And these are people who have not voted in the last 2 federal cycles. We started tracking this last June, so hopefully as time goes on, we'll see what's happening. And so that you can see a little bit of a downward trend, but nothing major. They're not doing anything with these folks at all. They're not removing them. So these are, these numbers are, as Patrick said in the beginning, some of these numbers are enough to swing on an election, right? The impact of non-voting registrants on voter roll integrity is inflated voter rolls, okay? They artificially raise New York's registration totals and distort, active voter counts. If you think about, where the number of people who are registered to vote, like where that would be impacted in terms of funding, in terms of, anything government does, they would look at the, the number of people on the, voting. So having, several million more people than actually even live here anymore or should be on the rolls impacts a lot more than just voting. It, like I said, impacts funding, a whole bunch of things. Keeping them on the voter rolls would impact like districting. So when they change the districts around, all those numbers sitting there impact how a district is made up in terms of voting. Okay, what else do we have here? The other interesting one I think that people might be interested in, and then I'll stop because it's already 8:30, is the number New York State moves out of state. Okay, so we took a look at last winter. We were able to get the national change of address information from the post office. And this is people that the post, when you move, right, you fill out a form and you have your mail forwarded. Well, the post office has that list, has that data, and that's available. And it is one of the things listed as a viable source in the National Voter Registration Act. And so this was the data here and the chart. The first 2 places where people are moving to in New York or from New York, I should say, is Florida and New Jersey, which is the 2 categories that we have been able to do some research on. And then and I don't remember the exact number as I have to go find it in a different part. But basically what we found, maybe it's up here. How many moves? Oh yeah, I do have it. So 520,835 registrants filed national change of address notices indicating a move out of New York State prior to the November 2024 general election. But they were still listed as active or inactive on the voter rolls. Among that group, 23,298 who supposedly had officially moved out of state, according to the post office, voted in New York State. So 23,000, and that's what the second graph shows you. That's the number of people that moved out and voted in the November 2024 election. So that's the presidential cycle, right? We were looking at that. That was the presidential race. So that's an interesting piece of information. Anything else you want me to talk about, look at? I can, we'll have to come back to this because this gets kind of dry after a while, I think. I'm seeing if there's maybe one more fun graph we can go through. Let's talk about, we talked about that already. Let's talk about
Do you have anything in here? I mean, is this all per the New York State voter rolls? Is it anything by region where like if you have something broken up by region, like, Western New York region or, uh, a different part of the state, upstate New York or whatever gives
No, I haven't done
more.
any of that. The only thing that we did is Suffolk County dead voters. Let me talk about citizenship. I think that would be a good one to end up on. So some of you have seen this before because we did a Substack on it. So one of the interesting anomalies we found in the voter rolls is that there are way more people in the New York State voter database that have the January 1 date of birth. So we got lots of babies supposedly born on January 1st. As you can see, you're almost, I don't know how many percentage more likely to have a January 1 date of birth. Now, we actually did this chart over every single day of the year, but that's a big, nice long graph, and you can't show it in a paper. So this just shows you the first of the month, but pretty much every other date of birth across 365 days of the year, with the exception of February 29th, leap year, because that would be every 4 years. People are on average, it's like, I don't know, just under 70,000 per day. But on January 1st, there's 107,000 of them. So it's a huge anomaly. So it's kind of an odd one. We couldn't figure out why. And so we did some different graphs with it. We took a look at it over the course of time and divided it up by registrations by date of birth, right? And so what we also did is we divided it up by presidential year. So you can see the red spikes here are presidential year. So that are every 4 years is a presidential election. And there was very obvious correlation between having the date of birth of January 1 and a presidential year. So maybe that's because more people vote, register to vote in a presidential year. Or maybe there's something else going on. So one of the things we did, this was all registrants. Okay, this is purged, active, and inactive. The next thing we did was we took out purged, and that created kind of an interesting bar chart here. Again, you can see the presidential years where it pops up. And the other interesting thing is there's a big connection with citizenship with January 1. January 1 happens to be a placeholder date used in immigration when somebody either comes across the border or flies in or whatever for refugee status, and this is not necessarily illegals. This is people who are legally claiming refugee status or trying to get a visa card or green card, that kind of a thing. If they come from a country where there isn't the same kind of record keeping that we have here, and they don't know when they were born or even possibly even the year, they are given a January 1 placeholder date. So it used to be that January 1 placeholder dates were used for, could be used just as a placeholder, as a system thing. When you didn't know somebody's date, you'd put January 1 in. And that was partially why we tried to get rid of the purged data here, because when the systems went from paper to a computerized voter roll database, a computerized database, there were a lot of these legacy paper issues. So by getting rid of the purge, you kind of eliminate some of those old problems when the change took place. So this is a graph of, it's from the Social Security Administration. It's a specific kind of program that the Social Security Administration has called the Enumeration Beyond Entry System, and it's new non-citizen Social Security numbers issued. And these are federal year, it starts in 2019, and the reason it doesn't go back any further is that's the first year they started tracking it, that you can get the data on. So that's 2019, 2020, 21, 2022, 23, and here's 2024. So it definitely spikes up. This high bar chart is 2 million non-citizen Social Security numbers issued. And then this other one is just under a million. So in 23, 24, 25, there were basically close to 4 million non-citizen Social Security numbers issued, which correlates directly with what we all saw, right, happening in the country. Lots and lots of folks from other countries coming into the United States, claiming refugee status or some kind of status at the border, and then they were given access to a number of programs, and you had to issue them Social Security numbers as part of those programs. So that's the non-citizen Social Security numbers. And the interesting thing here is you can almost see, how that kind of, again, we can't totally correlate with it because we don't have the data past 2019 on this graph. But there's definitely that spike kind of goes right along with it. So we can't tell for sure whether or not there are non-citizens on the voter rolls in New York State, because we as not, as a non-government agency, we can't we don't have access to their Social Security number. We don't have access to somebody's their driver's license number. But this is one of the things that we found that really points in the direction that there definitely are non-citizens on the voter rolls, and some of them may have voted. So that goes into the problem that we discovered through this whole thing, is that there isn't front-end verification. In other words, when you register to vote, you are registering to vote through a system that is predominantly mail-in, which was that first graph I talked about. There is not a verification on identity. There's not any kind of verification on citizenship at that point in time. And so you end up with a lot of problems in the voter rolls because of that lack of diligence initially, that, just don't seem to get cleaned up down the road. It leads to kind of chaos down the road with a lot of problems. So, I wanted to give people just a quick overview of some of it. There's a lot more here that I could go through. I don't want to take everybody's whole night up. Is there any thoughts, questions? We could do this again, and some of the things that I didn't go over, we could go over a little bit further. There's statewide voter registration trends that we took a look at, which are actually linked to some statutory requirements, and actually linked with people moving from like independent to a specific party so they can vote in a primary and then back out. So it's kind of interesting, but there's definitely some things more we can talk about. But this hopefully, now that I got to put it into bullet points, Anne Marie, it may not be Monday to get this. That's all right.
You don't have to.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. But that's kind of what we've been working on behind the scenes, and taking the information that the voter roll research team has come up with and putting it into report form. DJ Elf?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I absolutely can. Thanks for
Awesome.
being here.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I don't know if Danielle ever told you, but I had been talking to her. And the thing is that I actually have this event every 2 years, right? Every election cycle. Actually, I also do in between years, like from New York City. And I have this upcoming candidate networking event. And I think that your stuff is just, candidates are the most interested in the things you're saying, because they want to know what's going on with these voters, right? I'm sure I didn't know until tonight that 80,000 people are registered to vote in New York and New Jersey at the same time. That's nuts. That was, I found tonight, I think that these candidates would love it. And it's going to happen the last Sunday of January. So I don't know if you guys might be available, one of you, to like maybe present the work of Project Civica. And I think that would be really cool. Just so you know, I also have the emails for all the candidates who are running in the 26th election cycle.
Okay.
And I actually have interviewed a bunch of them, and I have talked to Danielle about having like a workshop to teach people about the issues going on, right?
Okay.
So because I also have discussion panels to try to help candidates develop propose bills like
Okay.
together to address some of these issues. But the thing is that really, they don't know the stuff like you guys do. So really, they need a workshop. I'm dead serious. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
unfortunately political divide.
One
You know,
one other
the
thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
finish up what you're saying.
Okay. One other thing that I'm working on too is this thing called for county committee, because the county committee controls, right, the rules regarding the elections and stuff like that. I think you guys are involved with that as well too. I heard someone mentioning county committee earlier. And one thing that I'm trying to figure out is putting together a list of recommendations such as limiting proxy votes and things like that to really prevent, because usually those are the players who are accused of manipulating things, right? Purging the wrong people off the rolls, or because they're the ones who have the access and the control to actually be able to do those things, right? Or the Board of Elections. And often those two are tied together, right? Party leadership, Board of Elections. So maybe we could work together. You guys are working on county committee stuff as well? I
Yeah.
can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, uh, but what I was going to say, one of the things that is really undermines confidence in the voter rolls and the whole process, and even just how voters get purged and all of that, is the fact that there isn't transparency in getting things like audit logs and stuff like that. So, you can get in the voter rolls, it'll say the purge date, it'll tell you, that the person was purged off the voter rolls by reason of death, but that's all you can get. I mean, you can't get, who did it. Like one of the things I didn't show here is we have data from Suffolk County where we had voters that we investigated who were dead. And we had them in those monthly snapshots for several months. And then all of a sudden, the dead vote disappeared. And not only did the dead vote disappear, but a whole bunch of voter history changed. So, it'd be one thing if voter history changed, a month after, and you could say, all right, well, maybe the election official clicked the wrong box or something like that. But 2 years after an election, we shouldn't be changing somebody's vote from mail-in to in-person, or taking their vote away or adding a vote in. Like that's not supposed to happen. And if you write to the Board of Elections or you try to do a Freedom of Information Law request to get a snapshot on a specific day, you can't get it. Now, they may keep them, they may have that data saved, but all you can get is, if you want November 3rd, they basically give you whatever's the current day. When they're looking at it, they give you that. You cannot get the snapshot of a specific day. So it would be really helpful transparency wise if you could have access to more of the maintenance. And as many people know, there's a lawsuit that the Department of Justice has now, I think, on like what, 28 states or 27 states, because the states don't want to give out the voter rolls. What they want to give to the Department of Justice is the voter roll we get, which, as you can see, even with what I get, I can see, there's major issues. But those maintenance records and stuff like that is what the unredacted versions hopefully contain, and that's just what they don't want to give to the Department of Justice. So, it's super interesting. I think a lot of this stuff should be public. Like you should be able to, see how many records are being purged or not purged and the reasons, and there should be like a lot more reporting. If there's internal audits, all of that should be, somewhat public. If the department or the state board of elections goes in and audits, because we understand they does an audit of a local county, you can't get those results at all. I've tried. I did a Freedom of Information Law request for several specific counties, and you can't get it. So it's very interesting. Although I probably should try again with Anne Marie's help now that I know better on how to do that. So yeah, that transparency, kind of even what you're talking about, that why a person got purged, and there might be some mistakes, right, with somebody moving out and that kind of thing, but there shouldn't be the massive numbers of mistakes, that's for sure. So, Anne Marie?
So I have a dumb question. Um, and then again, a lot of the election stuff I'm learning because of Project Civica and the things I'm doing with you guys. But is a mail-in ballot the same as an absentee ballot?
They're actually two different things.
Did you have the stats? I mean, I didn't. I saw the mail-in ballot and I was reading other ones, and I didn't see if you also showed how many absentee ballots there were. But I wonder if.
So in the very beginning, I made a little bit of a mistake. I started talking about the mail-ins thinking it was a ballot, but it wasn't. Those are registrations. So the absentee ballots and mail-in ballots are two kind of different categories. Absentee ballots was traditionally something you always had, right? And that was where you were going to be out of town, and you weren't going to be in town to vote. And so you wanted to vote, do your civic duty. You would send an application into the Board of Elections and you would explain why. There was like, you had to have a reason. And they would then mail you a ballot that you could send in, right? Then recently, and I don't remember the exact year, maybe somebody on the call would be able to does remember, but it was like maybe 2, 3 years ago. The legislature passed this idea of mail-in, so no excuse mail-ins, right? And that's different. That you basically it's also an application, you send it in, but you don't need a reason for it. And if you ask for it or you want to get on it, you can get a mail-in ballot for basically the whole year. So it's like once you send it in, it's kind of the whole year. So that's multiple election cycles. And there's no excuse there at all. That's mail-in ballots. A lot of states across the United States have moved into automatically just mailing you a ballot. There's still the ability to go in person, but they just take the whole voter roll and send you a mail-in ballot. Now, just imagine, I was coming up with well over like 1.8 million people haven't voted in the last two federal election cycles. Probably most of those people don't even live in New York anymore. They're dead. And now you're going to mail out all the, like if New York doesn't have this, but just imagine out in the Pacific Northwest, they have this, or California, everybody just gets mailed a ballot with all this in there. And it goes to an apartment complex. And in the apartment complex, it's not deliverable. It just sits there and, people, hopefully they destroy them, but you and I all know no one's not that honest, right? They're getting filled out and mailed in. And then that gets into, verification, signature verification, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't have time for tonight. So that's the difference between absentee and mail-in. They're kind of the same, but if you go online, there's actually a way for you to pick one or the other that you want. And in New York State, they have also something called the permanent absentee ballot list. So that's somebody who is like permanently disabled that just automatically gets a ballot sent to them. And you have to apply for that as well. But then very beginning, I got myself confused initially looking at that and started calling it the mail-in ballots, and it was not. It's mail-in registrations. We looked at registration source. We did not take a look at that aspect. That'll be the next report, Anne Marie.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else? Any other thoughts, comments? All right. There are, I don't know, Steve, are you still on this call? Steve Gillen?
Yes.
You want
I'm
to
on the call.
really, I don't want to take a lot of time because it's already been
Yeah.
over an hour. But do you want to briefly just talk about the elections? There's four.
Sure.
No, yeah, four.
Sure.
Technically there's four special elections.
Right,
although
right.
There isn't a candidate in the one. Just that's kind of upcoming.
Yeah, so February 3rd, we have a special election, and we have 2 Senate seats and 2 Assembly seats that were open from people moving on, retiring. You had Mandavi's seat 36 that was open. So there's a special election, and anybody that lives at 61 is up in the northwest part of New York State, up in that area, Buffalo, Tagawanga, up in that area. And then you got the 47th, which they do have a candidate running in the 47th, which I am told. That's on the west side of Midtown Manhattan, and then Assembly District 74, which is on the southern part of Manhattan, southeastern part of Manhattan. So if you know anybody in those districts, okay, there's usually not a big turnout in these special elections. So it's an opportunity for people to get out there and vote for the way they want to vote. Hopefully, we're going to do some effort as far as getting out the vote for Project Civica in those areas, and hopefully it'll work. We're also working on getting candidates to run. All right, many people may or may not be aware. In 24 election, we had 53 seats that there wasn't an opposition candidate. There was only one party running. All right, that's not a republic. All right, we representative government. We need people on both parties to be able to run and let the people decide who we're going to get. So we're putting in an effort and we're helping out, down in Brooklyn, trying to get people to run. We've done a TV on Zoom. Excuse me, not on Zoom, on the streaming services. We've run 157. We had 157,000 views, just trying to get people to run. We've been giving a class on Wednesday night, and we've had about 40 something people respond that are interested. And these are just grassroots people that aren't involved in the party or any party, and but they want to get involved. They think it's important. I've given 2 classes. I gave one last Wednesday night, and I gave another one last night. And again, we're just giving people the basic information on what it is to run for office. People have no idea what the process is. So we're, teaching them, supplying them information, sending them to the right place to get information as far as the New York State Board of Elections website, where they have a lot of good information on what your requirements are. But we have put together also a quick start document, and we go over that with them, and then I send it to them. And we'll see. It seems like we have a number of people, and again, this is just in Brooklyn, because the chairman over there is looking for any help he can. You got a new chairman in Brooklyn of the Brooklyn Republican Party, but we do it for anybody. We will do it for a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative. I don't push on anybody as far as what party. I just tell them whatever party you're going to be running for, the process is still the same. We also teach them out if they want to run independent, all right, if they don't want to be affiliated with a party, which they can do. So, that's the effort that we're putting in, because we have to fill all 53 of those vacant races, all right? It's just not right, and it's been going on for years. We had 48 in 2022, and we had 51 in 2020 for the state races. So we're doing our part, again, civic action, trying to just educate people on what what their responsibility are. You can't sit around and complain if you're not going to put it in effort, either running for office or becoming a committeeman or anything of that nature. You got to get involved. So that's what Project Civica is doing on that whole component. Short enough?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. I was just looking in the chat. I'm used to having Danielle on here helping me. But somebody asked in here if somebody lived in I think it was Camille, if somebody lived in a shelter, if they would be able to vote. And the answer is yes. Their shelter would count as could be their residence. There was something on X just recently where, and if anybody wants to do this, I would love to work with you on this. There was a city shelter, and I think it was in Atlanta, but I'm not 100% sure. It was definitely in Georgia. And they were looking at, and we actually have this data. We have where concentrations of people are registered. And obviously some of it will be legitimate because it's an apartment complex, but it was a city shelter for homeless people people that had closed down. So there was nobody living there anymore. And they had like 60 something people still registered there, probably left over from the day when people were, actually homeless and living there and had registered, but maybe some of it was fraudulent registrations. And basically they showed the broken down building and then pointed out the number of people that were still there. They're trying to bring attention to the fact that the voter rolls are just a mess. So I would love to do that in New York State because I know we have a lot of that and we haven't even gotten into that. So somebody has a bent to kind of be like Nick Shirley with the whole Minnesota fraud and wants to do it with election integrity. The time is ripe for it on social media, I think. So, but absolutely, if they can register from a shelter and they could vote from that location. And there was one other.
Kim, can I saw that post that you were talking about,
Yeah.
and something actually interesting in addition to what you were saying, that people were registered there since, and it was closed, since 2017, I think they said.
Yeah.
And they have this thing called the vicinity rule, so that you can be registered if you are homeless and you live in the vicinity of a shelter.
As a homeless person. Yes.
Right. You can register with the address of the shelter, even if you don't live there.
Yep. Super interesting.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think. There was another question in here. Oh, you came up with election administration in New York, integrity or iniquity? Interesting. Okay, I'll grab that one. Yeah, I was trying to think of, like I said at the beginning, I'm not good at that, trying to think of like little fancy ways to get attention. Some people are real good at that, but I will keep that one. There was another question in here, but I don't see it offhand. Anyways, I
There's a
think
hand up. There's a hand up.
who's got their hand up? Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I had one more thing I wanted to say. I'm actually on Martin Luther King Day. I'm having an event at National Action Network, and we're going to bring the longest wrongfully incarcerated men in New York State history. Also, Steve Chan should be there. There's going to be a couple of people running for Congress that are going to be there as well. And I love your work, and I would really like it if maybe one of you guys could come through and maybe do like a short, maybe 3-minute, 4-minute speech to encourage people, because people, they think that they can solve these problems with these candidates. They really can't. They need this kind of grassroots organization to really affect any real change.
Mhm.
So is anybody maybe,
Is that an in-person event or is that a Zoom kind
it's
of
in
event?
person. We're going to be in front of National Action Network. All the big Democrats going to be there. Every MLK, they do something called a public policy forum, and the governor shows up, the senator shows up. So we've actually, this is our 5th consecutive year doing this. And I don't have, well, I have a Facebook event for this, right? I have a Facebook link, but I would love if you guys could present, really, because I really am all about the grassroots and I really love what you guys are doing. I think you guys did a
Sure.
great job tonight. I was really impressed.
Danny has the information, so maybe reach out to her right now. Or you could yeah, that might be the quickest way to get the information.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually share the Facebook
share
link
the
into
link
the
here.
chat.
Yeah. Just how we contact you. I know because we are streaming, so I don't think you want to put your,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
contact
Oh, no, I
information
don't care.
here. That's what I was concerned about. Yeah, otherwise I would have said just give it to me, but we
Okay.
are trying to stream.
That's the event. So just send me your thing and I'll add you guys. I put the link to the event, to the Facebook event, and then just send me, if one of you guys could speak, I'd love to add you guys to the flyer. You guys are really awesome. Great job.
Thanks. I know what it was that in the chat here. Somebody was talking about nursing homes and that scenario. The interesting thing in New York, and people say this, well, there's all these people who are, say, in memory care facilities and they're able to vote. But in New York State, you cannot remove somebody's right to vote just because they live in a memory care center or because they're disabled. I don't know what the PC word is right now, but maybe have some mental issues. You actually have to be found legally incompetent. So there has to be a court determination that you're legally incompetent, and that's the only way they can, you could be removed from the voter rolls and not be able to vote. And that's the same for senior citizens who might be in a memory care facility dealing with, dementia or something like that. If you're basically your family or somebody has to have made you mentally incapacitated, and that's the only way. So there isn't anything illegal about that, but there should be more safeguards in a nursing home so that somebody's vote isn't abused, right? So that somebody is saying, "Oh, that person will never know," and they're voting for them. And we did see incidents of that. That's another thing that was on social media recently about a nursing home situation. So. Yeah, so that's just the kind of the rules. The other thing that has come up is a lot of residences, like student residences at colleges. You often find a huge concentration of students who, they attended 4 years of school, registered to vote from whatever, their dorm room, and that their dorm is listed as their place of residence, and then they move on, but no one took them off the voter rolls, and they're still sitting there on the voter rolls. That's another challenge to try to get that situation solved. That's just some microcosms of some of the issues. But you are allowed to vote from your residence. You just can't vote from your residence at college. You're not, and your home residence where you registered to vote when you were 18 years of age. So it's super interesting. And the law is the law, and it's always a trick to try to we want everybody legal able to vote should be able to vote. Like, I don't want to ever stop people from voting, because historically that's been an issue in various communities of color, women, right? We want all those people to vote, but at the same time, we have to figure out some way of bringing back trust in the election process, and voter rolls that look like the way, what we see just doesn't do it at all, because it just leaves itself open to major fraud. And the ability to commit fraud, which is enough to affect elections, especially locally. Your smaller elections can be swung by a lot smaller, margins, and so it's. I appreciate everybody being on, and I will actually. This helped me, because one of the things I have to be able to do is I have to be able to figure out how to present a whole bunch of dense material to people and explain it. And starting here with people who you guys kind of all understand has already started to help me figure out how this gets presented to the general public. I'm definitely going to have to talk about the requirements of NIVRA and HAVA in a very simple way, and then also the process of registering to vote and some basic things. So it helped me. Anyways, thanks all for coming. Next week, we are going into freedom of information law. So that is a key thing. No matter, what type of information you want to get from the government, whether it's voter rolls, because that we get by freedom of information law, or budgetary information, or whatever, knowing the freedom of information law process is super important, and that training is next week, open to anybody. So hop on with Anne Marie, and then the week after that, we're going into the legislature, trying to learn how a bill is supposed to become a law and what's actually happening up in Albany. And then the week after that is the Election Integrity Network, which is a national group. So come join us again and learn, and just try to understand, and hopefully find a spot where maybe you can plug in and be an activist yourself. So I appreciate everybody, and thanks. Have a good evening, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Patrick, for co-hosting.
Yeah, no problem.
Good night. Thank you.